Good. How y'all bossing on this Saturday afternoon? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the last episode, the last session of season 2 for the Boss Chick Corner. All right, we are about to get into a little BS today, a little knowledgeable BS. So you can technically say we back to business. I'm spotlighting my good sis today while she educates us on how to educate ourselves, to educate the youth about SEX. Um, I love her mentals. I love her free spirit. I love how she just speaks the truth. She's so relatable, and especially with a topic like this where we need to be equipped, especially being like one of those taboo topics. But definitely, we're going to get into some great things today. Before I bring her on, you know, hit that like button, comment, subscribe. Let me know you are in the corner with us this afternoon. Subscribe so that you can be notified when I drop new content. Yeah, hit that subscribe button right there. Don't be afraid. Right there. All right, all right. Now back for a second time, y'all. Welcome our good cousin, our good sis, the Sexfirmation goddess herself, Tammaka Staley. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey y'all, how y'all
How
doing?
we doing, cousin?
I'm doing great, cousin. How are you?
I am good. I am so happy that you are back with us finally for season 2. I know we had a few little
Yes.
mix ups earlier this season. I dropped the
Yeah.
ball a lot. I did.
Hey, life be lifing. So I'm glad that we were able to come together in divine timing. That's all it was.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Um, so I I remember I bought one of your shirts and I had been wearing it around campus and
Yeah.
people were interested in what it is. So she has a shirt that says consent, and on the back it has her company's name, which is Yase,
Yeah.
with a beautiful
Yeah.
butterfly.
Mhm.
So go ahead, tell the people who you are, what Yase is, how did it come about?
Got you. Well, I want to just say thank you to you first of all. You stay doing the damn thing and just out here giving folks a platform and an opportunity just to share the wealth of knowledge. So I definitely appreciate that. To be coming back, I definitely feel honored. So Yase is a youth organization, right? In which I founded in 2020. Like we were in the thick of the pandemic,
Oh,
quarantine, and it was really something ancestors just gave me to just be quite honest. Like I knew that I wanted to do something because I've been a sex educator for many years, but a lot of people know me for being a spoken word artist, which I still do that as well. And I was like,
yes.
well, people don't really know that I have this other side of me, that I've been in sex education and sexual health since I was really like 13,
Okay.
and it started to be something that I sought for myself because I had a lot of questions about sex and sexuality and consent that I wasn't getting answers from. I grew up in a family that wasn't super private about sex, but wasn't very open about sex. And I just think it's because they just didn't have the tools to know how to talk to teens about that. I could
Right.
remember like masturbating for the first time when I was 9 years old. And
Mm.
I felt things and were doing things with my body and even watching porn at that age and just didn't have anyone to go to figure out like what was going on with myself. And also I grew up in the church that said that that was a sin, that was wrong. You wasn't supposed to touch yourself like that. You was only supposed to wait for marriage to have sex, right? And
Right.
masturbation wasn't even nowhere in the vicinity of that. And if it was, again, it was considered a sin. So didn't really have anyone to talk to, but I knew that this had to be something that other people were experiencing if I was feeling it, right? Especially
Right.
feeling these things and doing these things with my own body and then watching porn and seeing other people do it. I'm like, well,
Right.
it can't be that wrong if other people are doing this. So yeah, it was one of those things where I just knew I needed to seek counsel. And at some
Okay.
point in my teen years, I met this woman named India White. I would literally never forget her. And she was a peer teacher, a counselor for this group of teen girls who were either pregnant or already had children.
Okay.
And she worked with this campaign called the South Carolina Contraceptive Access Campaign. And I met her, and I think I was just shadowing her as a part of some community service or something like that. But I didn't know exactly what she did. You know, I kind of just showed up the first day, was like, these are community service hours I need, and
Right.
I'm a shadow you. So just seeing her pour into those young ladies, and they were all Black girls, you know, and some of them, they were girls that went to high school with me. So just
Right.
seeing her pour into them and talk about a lot of the things that I was experiencing as far as sex was concerned really made me feel like seen and heard. You know, my good sis Kayla Bacot always says, "Seen, safe, seen, and supported." Like that is her motto. She built a
Mm,
whole campaign around it. Shout out to Kayla. And I love that I got that from her, because that is truly a beautiful feeling to feel safe, seen, and supported. And that is what India White did for me. And I was like, well, I want to be somebody's Miss India one day. Like that's gonna be me. And so in 2020, you know, and from high school through college, like my sex ed journey just continued to evolve, you know, and I won't
okay.
get so much into my bio, you know, y'all can read that some other place. But essentially, me reflecting on all of those things made me know that I had to create something. And that's kind of where y'all say came from. It's just my journey and passion for making youth feel seen and safe and supported in their own bodies, and also know how to appropriately engage with other people's bodies too. And that inspiration came from meeting Miss India. That inspiration came from all the other journeys that I've had throughout my career, and that ultimately made me make the decision to start my own business. So y'all say, and it
Right.
stands for Youth Affirming Sex Education, right? So it literally is something that just, you know, and I actually also have to thank my sister, Delitra. We were in the house together when I was trying to come up with a name, and I was running stuff by her. She was like, "Oh, that's okay, but that's not it. No, that's okay, that's not it." You know, so, and it just really hit me. I say I have, like I could tell you, ancestors just had to plant it in my brain and in my spirit, because I have no other story about how that name. It's just like it was spirit led, you know. Y'all say
And
youth affirming sex education, because youth gonna be affirming their own sex education. You know, they need to be
mm-hmm.
guided, but they get the chance to make their own decisions. You know, and I wanted something that was more akin and in alignment with Black youth, Black LGBTQ plus youth. You know, because those are the kids that
Right.
I was working with, and those are the children that I work with now. And I'm also a part of the community. I'm a Black queer woman that did not have a lot of examples on what that looked like to engage with my own self, but definitely not with other people, because sex ed was
Right.
taught that this means penis and this means vagina, and these two
Yeah.
things always have to go together. But I'm like, well, I want to create something that says that sex doesn't always look like this. Sometimes it looks like this. Sometimes it looks like all kind of other ways. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's very expansive and eclectic. So that is where y'all say came from. Comprehensive decolonized sex education. That is what I provide for 12 to 19-year-olds, but also for parents and communities. So I do
Okay.
workshops. I do one-on-one consultations with parents to help guide them on how to have these tough conversations with their children, whether they're coming out for the first time, whether they sense and notice different behavior patterns that could be associated with sexual trauma. I
Mm-hmm.
guide parents on how to do that. Professionals that work with youth, whether you're a principal, you're a coach, you're a guidance counselor, you are a youth pastor, right? You are Sunday school, you know, any area that children and youth are in, these conversations need to be had, because it comes up everywhere. You know,
Right.
sexuality and consent and autonomy and contraceptives, all of those things are part of sexual health, not just the act of sex itself, but healthy
Mm-hmm.
relationships, body dysphoria, like that is a thing, dysmorphia, that is a thing too. All of this under the sexual health umbrella. So those are the things that I talk about in my workshops and with individuals, and those are services that I also provide. So yeah,
Yes,
that's
I
me.
love it. I love it. You definitely answered my question about the target and the particular
Mm-hmm.
resources that you have for parents and teens. In
Yes.
the next 5 years, what kind of resources or what's your resource goal
Mm-hmm.
for the next 5 years?
Oh, I love this question, because definitely I want to have a physical building. I will. The Yase Center will be coming to a city near you. I'm from Columbia, South Carolina, born and raised. So I definitely want to have a home base.
Right.
But I do have a vision for multiple locations. But that would be the first one. I want to have a physical center where people can come and convene to learn, to unlearn, to relearn, to restore, And yeah, so that's the biggest goal. And also to have my curriculum up and running. So I'm building a curriculum right now. Actually, I won't say that's a 5 year. That's a sooner goal. But that will be a resource provided, is to have a curriculum that schools and organizations can purchase to make it their sex ed curriculum, something that is more relatable to the teens. That's real, that is direct and clear, because students and teens can sense when you're being inauthentic and when you're
Yes.
withholding information from them. So my curriculum is called Sex Positive Sessions, SPS. It's a 5-week program, and each session is an hour long. And we're going to get into the nitty gritty of a whole lot of things, from the history of contraceptives down to the medical term of certain body parts to the slang term of certain body parts.
Right.
Like, and really leveling with them in that type of way. So yeah, that is also a goal in 5 years, to have my physical center, my curriculum that is for purchase globally. I want anybody in the world to be able to like click a link and purchase this curriculum to implement it into their programs at their schools, at the community centers, at their churches. Like churches need sex ed too. Faith-based communities need sex ed too. So that is, and at some point, I also would love to have a condom line. That might be like a 7-year goal, though, maybe 5 to 10.
Yes.
So my own condom line with youth in mind, like youth, centering young people, a condom line, but a condom line that anybody can use. And it'll be various different types of condoms, that cater to people with various genitals, that cater to various genders and various types of sex. So yeah,
I support. I support.
Yeah.
I support. Good deal. Good deal. Just bring this as a little sidebar. Bringing it back to you said you don't know how you came up with the name. At that particular time, I started to see a lot of people getting in tune with their ancestors, and just noticing the word "I say," which said is so it be, so be it.
Yeah.
I think this falls in line with it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it
yes,
does.
the stars align
And
for that.
the stars definitely align. And I actually was talking to somebody. I think last year I was at a gig at the PBS studios in Columbia, South Carolina. And I was speaking to someone, and they actually told me that Yase in Spanish kind of translates to "we the people" or "we are the people," something to that effect. And so I was like, we are the people, yes, and I am for the people. And this organization is very much centering community in all the ways that we get to exist, right?
Yes.
It breaks barriers, and it breaks limitations on what sexuality and consent and sex and sexual health looks like, right? In the ways that we get to access it. So yeah, it was, again, divine alignment.
Yes, I can see that. Since you mentioned a speaking engagement, what has been your favorite speaking engagement in regards to Yase?
Oh, that's a good one. Favorite. I would have to say, I really think it was my most recent thing that I did so far. It was a virtual conference. It's called Slam Conference. Shout out to Stephanie Zapata, who runs the Slam Conference. It is a beautiful, beautiful conference. It was virtual. People from all around the world attended online, and I was one of the facilitators this year. And this is my first time applying for this particular conference. And I was the speaker. There might have been over 50 people in the Zoom, and it was beautiful. So I feel like that would have been my favorite. Also because it's very much in alignment with the way that I do sex education. Very decolonized, very expansive. You're going to see all types of genders in there. You're going to see, there's going to be Black folks in the room. There's going to be queer folks in the room. There are going to be various different types of races and backgrounds. However, the centering of Black queer voices is what I love the most about this particular stand, because that is what I do censor. Like, it is for us. I want any and everybody to be able to benefit because it's necessary. However, it is for us. So I really enjoyed that. And yeah, people were engaging. I love when I'm in workshops and I get gigs where I get fiery and I feel like I want to throw some shoes. I ain't in the church no more, However, I do still like to get a little churchy, and I'll come from that background. I will throw a shoe
Yeah.
if I get excited. And that was
Yes.
a space that really made me excited about the questions that was being asked, about the ways that we got to hold each other accountable in the space. And yeah, it was just everything was in alignment with far as engagement and participation, and just the direct and clearness of what people wanted to get out of it. And I also was nourished too. If I leave a gig feeling like I got something, even though I'm the facilitator, like I came to teach, but I
Mm-hmm.
leave with a lot of
Yes.
information, it's the best. And that was one of those gigs where everything I got all that in one. So that has to
Yes.
be my favorite. So y'all definitely follow Slam on Instagram. Stephanie Zapata again runs that, and amazing. It's amazing.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Um, Now, on the flip side, what has been like the most stressful hump to get over when building this organization?
Whew, and most stressful, it definitely is marketing for me. Marketing has been the most stressful to just like get the word out about what you do. One, because I just really don't like being on social media that much. I enjoy social media and I do use it
Yes.
as a tool. And I think that marketing just requires so much more dedicated and strategy. It requires strategy too. Like
Mm-hmm.
marketing is not one of those things where you just put up a video and then allow people to just come to you. Like you have to really have a strategy. What time you gonna put the content up?
Yes.
What's your target audience, and maybe what type of clothes are you gonna wear? That's gonna determine all of you gotta have all those like little nooks and crannies in alignment logistically in order to get your desired results.
Yes.
So that was the biggest hump to get over at first. And now I'm starting to see a shift, in my biggest hump now is more so revenue is now like sustaining. When
Mm-hmm.
you are an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, and I'm a LLC. I'm not a nonprofit. I'm a for-profit business. I do
Okay.
like to volunteer services very, very often, and my goal is to like make things as affordable and free as possible to you all, but it's not free to me. Okay, so even if I provide things which I like to in the community, if I do provide things free of charge, it's because I've done stuff on the back end to secure some revenue and secure some funding,
Right.
so that way people don't have to pay for it. And it is very difficult, especially being a Black queer CEO. Like I know there's a lot of money out here, but it can be very limited depending on the circles that you're in. And I'm known I'm not the only entrepreneur that can say that. When it comes to securing funding,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you do come from a nonprofit sector, which I come from, that I have that background, then it's harder, for Black CEOs to retain this money, especially when
Yes.
you are doing something that is considered more taboo. However, it is possible, and I have
It is.
grateful that I have come into some sources of funding that are in alignment with what I do and my ethics and values. It's just it is
Yes.
difficult to get there. Once you get it, hold on to it. So I'm grateful that
Right.
but definitely I'm in a building process of finding my tribe and finding the people who really are dedicated to this work, that
Yes.
I can find multiple ways, of multiple streams of income, multiple streams of revenue, so that way I can make the business and the impact larger. Because unfortunately, in capitalism, you got to have money to do
Mm,
stuff. You do,
that is
and I
true.
want the impact to be larger. Yeah, so I'm that sustaining that revenue, finding ways, multiple ways under this business to sustain that revenue, so that way I can make impact larger, and I also can be able to take care of myself and live the life that I desire. So yeah, that
Exactly.
is my has been always been a hump, but I think that's more of my hump now than the marketing. But that was
I
what it
think
was at first. It's like,
I think
what?
we
I don't know.
definitely had a personal conversation about that regarding like just staying afloat and continue to
Yeah.
have those resources. I think that's why it's
Hmm.
extremely important for us to build these bridges and continue to network, because
Yeah.
one, I might know somebody who knows a little bit of something that might can help you, and I'm so happy to have
Yeah.
people who kind of think in the same way, especially when it comes to this topic. I have these conversations
Right.
with people that I work with, because hey, I'm working with students now, so I get to see
Yeah.
some of this stuff firsthand. So if I know of any resources, I would definitely hand them over to you, so you
Yes.
have
Please
a
do.
resource in me.
Yes. I love that. Yeah. And you got the saying. I feel like it's so important to share and recycle our resources.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
Yes.
that's a part of
Yes.
community. That's how we continue to sustain ourselves and that is a part of how we get to this world that we say we want to live in, that is more equitable and expansive and more imaginative. Like I want to live in a more imaginative world, something
Yes.
that's big and wide, because the things that we've been given to us now, whether it's the type of education that we have, the type of clothing that we have access, the type of housing that we have access to, the type of knowledge, it's not a one fits all. We need multiple ways to do things. We need multiple uh, concepts and multiple ideas and
Yes.
ideologies, because we're different people. And I feel like that is going to be the biggest thing, is to share the resources, and a resource can be non-tangible too. A resource is
Yes.
this, like having a conversation is
Yes.
resourceful, right? And it's
I
nourishing
agree.
too. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely.
Little jolt of motivation, inspiration. You get creative energy out of it at the same time. So yeah,
Yes,
definitely, definitely. All
absolutely, you
right.
do.
So I had a few things here that I've heard over the years or seen younger people kind of talking about.
Yeah.
Help me kind of debunk some of these myths and
Yes. Oh, I love
miscommunications.
this.
I just got a
Okay, I
few. I
got
got a
you. I'm
few.
ready.
All right. So first one up. Real sex is just like porn.
mm, that is definitely a myth. Real sex is not like porn. One, because these are people that are paid actresses, actors, or just paid people. They're doing a job.
Yes.
So, and they're entertainers. So these are paid entertainers doing a job, providing a service to fulfill a desire or a need that our society has like kind of created, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I say that it's not like porn also. So that's one thing. There's a certain time frame, a time limit, a budget. All of that has to be done. So the biggest part about why it's not like real sex is because of that. Because that also makes the timing of the sex in porn a lot faster than what it usually happens in real life. You know what I
Yes.
mean? It's like we don't, like a average porn is about 15 to 30 minutes long on average. And sometimes in real life, you need more time than that to really get where you're going. And actually, you should have more time. So actually, I'll say this: some sex in real life actually is like porn, and that might not be a great thing. That might not be a great thing.
In
Like
that
you just get
aspect,
to the wham bam, think,
true.
yeah. Like you just
True.
get to the
True.
wham bam, thank you, ma'am, and I'm like, well, wondering why you got tearing and you hurting, or you didn't have the best time that you could have had. I'm like, yeah, you gotta, especially if you're having sex with someone that has a vagina. Like vaginas need at least 30 to 40 minutes of foreplay to like be fully aroused.
Speak on it.
Fully aroused, 30 to 45 minutes. And that's different for every person. Every vagina owner is very different.
Mm-hmm.
But on average, it's like to be fully aroused and have the most to optimize your experience with sex, you will need some
Mm-hmm.
time. So, and just the things that happen in porn too are just very unrealistic, as far as the fact that in every porn at the end there's ejaculation. Somebody's coming at the end of every porn, in some type of way, or somebody's squirting, or it's very smooth and you don't really see any hiccups. No one does a headbutt in the porn. Like that's just not realistic. No
Exactly.
one farts
You
in a porn.
you
I've
you didn't
never
get to
seen
see
farting
the
in a
part
porn.
where they both fell off the bed or anything like that.
Exactly. Like you didn't see the part where the person was struggling to open the condom and they ripped it. You didn't see the part where you might have been aroused and you might have been wet at first, but then when it was time to insert a finger, or insert a toy, you had to kind of start over again. You had to do something
Right.
something different. You had to grab the lube, and when you was grabbing the lube, you might have slipped on the sheet and fell on the floor. It's like it's those things
Yeah.
don't happen in porn, and it happens in real life. It just does. So yeah, that is my take. Real sex is not like porn, and if it is like porn, I feel like I may be concerned. I may be concerned. And
I'm
don't get me wrong, porn is
concerned.
not a bad thing. Like I enjoy porn. A lot of people enjoy porn because it is fast. It's a tool. It's literally just a tool. It's a tool to get you to where you need to be. If you are already a person that is knowledgeable about sex, knowledgeable about your body, other people's bodies, then that is a tool I think is a great thing. It's not a good learning tool. It is a good sexual tool, like as far as pleasure
Right.
and having fun. It is not a learning tool, though. I want to make
I
that
think it
very
should
clear.
definitely have
So
a warning. Don't try this at home.
exactly. Try at your own risk because it's risky.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. Next
absolutely.
one. You should only be tested if you're sleeping around.
False. It's definitely a myth. Definitely. There are so many people who are in monogamous committed relationships that have STDs, they have STIs. Sleeping around is not um, always directed and correlated to needing to be tested, right?
Right.
Sometimes the testing doesn't come from sex at all.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the testing is not necessary because someone was having sex at all, right? Because you can contract STDs multitude of ways outside of sex, right?
Right.
So that's number one. Like testing and sex is not what's
Synonymous.
I always get this mixed up. Mutually inclusive. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like they always have to, be one and the same or happen at the same time. Like
Right.
you can not be having sex and still need to get tested. So I'm gonna say that that definitely is a myth. And I also want to point out that living with STDs and STIs is not a death sentence. It is not anything to be ashamed of.
Mm-hmm.
It is does not have any bearing on your morality and your values and ethics about whether you're a good person or a responsible person. It has no bearing on that, and people live very full and healthy lives with STDs and
Yes.
STIs. So I do want to make that very, very clear. And you, again, can contract it without sleeping around or without having sex. It's a lot of other ways. So,
Speak on it.
yeah,
Let it be known.
absolutely.
Okay.
And that you can sleep around and still need to get tested and still not contract the STD. So I also want to say, make sure that that is clear, because we pro ho
Definitely.
over here. Definitely pro ho. Ethical hoeing. We like ethical hoeing. There's ethical hoeing, but we pro
Do
ho.
you, but do it
Yes,
safely.
exactly. Right.
um, Next one. You could tell when someone has a STI.
That is false. That's definitely a myth. You cannot always tell.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can tell via speculation,
Mm-hmm.
um, but you can't confirm an STI, even if there's physical symptoms. I would say physical symptoms can give you an indication, absolutely.
Right.
Does that mean that you automatically are sure? And no, because symptoms of STIs can look very similar to other things. Like, let's say a herpes outbreak, a herpes bump. A herpes bump can look very much like a razor bump. It can look very much like a pimple. And we get pimples in anywhere on the body, anywhere
Mm-hmm.
that there's hair that grows, you can get a pimple or a
Right.
razor bump if you shave it. And you have hair everywhere on your body, on your toes, your growing area, in the anal canal, like everywhere. You can get a hair bump or a razor bump. So no,
Right.
you can't tell if someone has. And then some STIs are not doesn't show up physically, right? Like HPV, for example.
Mm-hmm.
There's a strand of HPV that many people have, regardless of your gender or genitalia, that aren't is not a synonymous with like a physical outbreak. It's just you only would know if you are to get a pap smear, if you have a vagina, if you have a penis. There's no test for people with penises, but if
Mm.
you have a vagina, a pap smear can tell you. But it's like that's a pap smear. You wouldn't be able to know if someone has, like, just for example, HPV, because it's not always it's and most people that have it don't have the physical symptoms, which is genital warts. Genital warts is
Mm-hmm.
the outbreak that is associated with HPV. But a lot of people don't have that strand, especially if you're a person again living with a vagina. Most of the time, you're going to have the strand that you only will be able to tell if you got a pap smear. So yeah, you can't tell that someone has an STI. It's not always
Do you hear that,
visible,
people? You
or
can't tell just by looking at somebody.
yeah, you cannot tell. And then a lot of times, and there's a lot of people that have STIs and STDs that have no symptoms, never had a symptom, and probably never
Mm-hmm.
will. You just wouldn't know. The only
Mm-hmm.
sure way to know is if you see their updated STD STI panel. Like they go get tested, you're looking at the results with your eyes. That's the only way that you're gonna know.
Right. Good deal. Good deal. Um,
Which I
Next.
suggest everyone does before engaging in sex. Go get
Yes.
tested, exchange results, see it on paper.
I think
Don't
that
just
that should
ask
definitely
the
be a
person.
norm.
It should. Don't just ask the person and then they can, then let them tell you. I think that's valuable. Allow people to disclose, but see the paperwork and make it your responsibility to ask. Don't put it on the other person
A
for them to
person
just
say, "Well, they
tell
should have
you.
presented to me." Yeah.
No, I don't agree with that. I think that disclosure comes at the hands of the people that are engaging, and you get to take responsibility for your own sexual health by asking, "Hey, what does your STI, STD results look like? I'd like to know before we engage in sex."
Mm-hmm.
Do I think it's helpful and ethical for people to disclose, especially if they know they have an STD? Absolutely. I think I think that that's an ethical thing to do. I just don't think that that's something that people have to do.
Have to.
And I
Mm-hmm.
also think that it can be dangerous for people living with STDs to disclose that information.
Yes.
Right? I'm not saying that it's right to withhold the information. I'm also just not saying that it's not their responsibility to tell you, especially if you didn't ask. Now, if you
Right.
ask, it's something different. But if you don't ask and you engage in sex and they have an STD and they chose not to tell you, it's both people's responsibility to know for sure. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Next one. Pulling out means she won't get pregnant.
Myth, 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 myth. Big myth,
Big,
okay? Real
big one.
bad. As Deaconess Young Miami says, real bad, okay? One, because the sperm can live in the vaginal canal for up to 3 days, right? So that's 72 hours. So even if you do pull out, right, you may not get the timing just right, and there could be semen that has been, left inside the vagina before the penis is completely pulled out. That's number one. But number two is that there also can be, it's very unlikely, it's a very low possibility, but there are people that can't get pregnant from pre-cum. There are traces of semen in the pre-cum, right? Depending on like how many days prior you had sex before having sex with this one person, there could be semen in the pre-cum, right? And so even if you pulled out and did not ejaculate, there's pre-cum that's there. And again, sperm can live in the vagina for 3 days. So it would not serve you well to rely on the pull-out method. It would not
Please
serve you
don't.
well to do that. If you're not trying to get pregnant, please just be careful. I ain't gonna tell y'all what to do. Y'all grown, okay? Pull
The
out.
information is here.
The information's here, and I'm not saying that pulling out is a horrible way. It is a way. I'm not going to even say it's not a way. It's just not a very effective way. It's very ineffective,
Right.
and that is a myth that she won't get pregnant when you pull out. That is not true. So just know if you're
Right.
doing it, there's always a risk of pregnancy and STD and STI contraction when you are having unprotected sex, but definitely a chance of pregnancy if you are using the pull-out method. It just is.
Yes. Thank you. And the
You're
last one,
welcome.
and this one got me. This one got me.
This one got you.
Yes. Standing up or having sex in water means she won't get pregnant.
Yes, I've heard that one many years. Thankfully, now when I work with young people, I'm not hearing that one anymore. Whew, I'm like, they learning. But yes, I have heard that, and that is not true. That is a
It
myth.
threw me for a
That is,
loop.
yes, standing up in. So what was it? Standing up in water.
Yes.
So like in the shower, like having sex in the shower.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's not true. That's definitely a myth. You can get pregnant by having sex. Don't matter. You can do it in a car. You can do it in a jar. You can do it in a house. You can do it by a mouse. If you're having unprotected sex, there is a risk for pregnancy. Period. No matter if it's in water or not. Also, having sex, if you're submerged in water, that actually is very dangerous. So I would not recommend having shower sex. That's a personal preference. I particularly don't enjoy shower sex like that.
It's too much
But
work.
it is. And it's like it get hot, and then the water start getting cold, and so your skin start getting clammy. It's just too much. But if you want to do that, that's fine. You definitely can still get pregnant. But I would not suggest having sex like in a pool or a jacuzzi or something like that. No,
Right.
that's
Y'all heard it here. You heard it here.
yeah.
All
The
right.
chlorine, the
Oh,
nastiness that people put in the water, all that is just Don't do it, y'all. Even if it's a private pool, it's a lot of bacteria that
Yeah.
circulates in pools. Yeah. Okay.
You good.
Oh, people are
So
wild, right?
yeah, yes, very.
Mm,
Now we all know now that sexuality is definitely not a black and white issue. So when it
mm-hmm.
comes to the LGBTQIA lifestyle, it's definitely
Mm-hmm.
a lot of factors that come with it.
Mm-hmm.
Fear, figuring out oneself, and
Yeah.
not to mention
Yeah.
just the whole pushback and criticism from the outside world.
Right.
Um,
Right. Absolutely.
Last spring, when I first started this position that I'm in now, we had it, the Title IX coordinator had an event called Sex in the Dark. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
the elder population, they were offended, child. They
Oh,
knowing it's
child.
just by hearing the title, they thought something raunchy was going on.
Oh,
But
goodness.
I know our students appreciate it, just being in a safe space
Mm-hmm.
where anonymity is very, very important. So it was one question that got me to. So one person asked, um, what was it? They were like, "How do you know what you like?" So I'm assuming that they had never had sex or don't
Okay.
know, if they like men or women.
Mm-hmm.
So have you ever heard that type of question, and what advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I have heard that question. I've had some young people ask me, well, how do you know you're sure about your sexuality? How do I know
Mm-hmm.
if I like boys or I like girls or I like non-binary people, people that don't identify in the
Identify.
binary at all, that are genderless, And my advice to that is that you'll know when you know. And I know that's very vague. It's
Mm-hmm.
just it just is, y'all. Like it's a very innate thing. It's something that there's no formula to it. However, I
Yes.
will get some like specific feelings that I feel like may indicate to you that I can do that. And of course, this is different for everybody. So I don't want anybody to think that this is an exact if I don't feel this, that means it's not true. No, it's just that
Right.
this is my experience. And this is the experience that I've heard other queer folks say that this is how they knew that they was queer, right? So I
Right.
identify as gay. I am attracted to women, to non-binary people, to gender expansive folks, things of that nature, romantically and sexually. That is
Okay.
how I identify. But that was not always the case. I was identifying as bisexual up until maybe like 2 years ago, and even then, in my brain, I just was like, yeah, I don't think that I'm attracted to men anymore. I don't think that that just doesn't resonate with me sexually and romantically. It doesn't feel spiritually aligned for me to be in romantic and sexual partnerships with men, right?
Okay.
So, but I didn't say that out loud, right? And I actually think this is the first time of me saying it out loud,
Because
but
I
I
was
didn't
gonna
say
say
it out
the
loud.
last time we talked like this, I think you identified as bi. So yeah, this is new
Yes,
to me.
exactly. Yes, it's there. Yeah. So, it's a thing that like as you grow and you learn, you have more space, you start to feel different things. And I started to feel very different, and I was still dating men at the time and still having sex with men at the time. And I just started to feel very different, very unlike myself. I wasn't feeling
Right.
comfortable and settled in my body, especially after sexual experiences with men. I just would feel like something was missing, like something just wasn't there. I wasn't feeling as connected. I wasn't feeling as confident, as sure. And I was starting to question things about my own body. Like my body image started to change. So that to me indicated, yeah, I made my attraction just has changed, and that's
Okay.
okay. And so
Yeah.
I stepped out of that, and I even was still like, okay, let me just go on a date with a guy. Let me make sure that I'm sure about what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the ways that I knew, is because I can, and I actually, I don't regret doing that, but I would wish that I would have just trusted my instinct and my intuition instead of trying to like, oh, let's just see if this
See,
is real,
yeah.
instead, and just listening to my heart, my mind, my body. Instead of forced, because it felt forced. It was very
Okay.
forced to like, okay, let me have sex this one more time with this guy, just to really make sure, And I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think for me, I wouldn't. The me now would have not done that. I
Right.
just want to trust my instinct and my intuition. But I do think that that's an option for people to know it, to be sure, to try some stuff out. That's a way to be sure, to
Exactly.
try it out. So
Coming
yeah.
into it, on a blank slate, of course, you have to find your way to figure out what it is that you like. And one thing that you
Yeah.
were saying is kind of like there's no formula on
Mm-hmm.
knowing, what
Yeah.
is. So you're gonna have to, try some things and then just trust where your heart, where your body is taking you.
Yes, exactly. And that's exactly what I did, So when I really was sure and I kept feeling these feelings and it didn't feel good to me, so I stopped, I stepped out of that and I stepped into something else and here I am, so yeah,
Yes.
and I'm just honoring my body, I'm honoring my mind and my spirit. And I think it's like, again, an innate thing. Like, I don't think that sexuality is a choice. It's just we get to choose how we express it, which is what I was doing. Like,
Mm,
my expression of sexuality, it felt forced. I was like, oh, let me just try one more time to see. So the
yeah.
ways that we express it and choose to explore it is a choice. But the feeling and you just knowing in your mind and your body what it is, you can't help that. Like, I couldn't help it. Like, and I tried. I
And
tried.
don't
And so
and
this is
don't
what,
force it.
yeah, this is
2023,
what
we're not
we're
forcing it.
not forcing. We're not forcing connections. We're not forcing feelings. If you feel
None of
what you
that.
feel, just honor that. Honor that the best
Yes.
that you can. And some of us aren't allowed to. And I think that's why I came into this discovery about myself. I don't want to say later in the game, but later in my life. I'm 29. I'll
Hmm.
be 30 this year. So,
Okay.
and a lot of people come into it later in life because I didn't grow up in a family that where being anything other than straight was acceptable. You know what I'm saying? I didn't grow up in a
Yes.
community and we don't live in a world where it's still not acceptable. It's more tolerant and more acceptable now, but still definitely not as much as it needs to be. So I
Yeah.
think that me graduating, coming into my adulthood, I just had more spaces and more community to feel like I could be myself and not have to suppress
Yes.
my emotions and suppress my feelings. And that allowed me to come into this discovery now that, this is where my attraction is. It was something different then, and it's this now because
Hmm.
I had more space and an opportunity to really sit with myself, and I had the space to actually explore different things to see what I
Hmm.
really like, what resonates for me, right? I had more
Right.
conversations. I had access to more like knowledge. I read a lot of things about sexuality. I read a lot of things about, what does queer mean, and how do you know? I researched stuff. So, but
Right.
I didn't have that opportunity as a teenager. I knew I was attracted to girls since I was in middle school. I just didn't have a space to stay there. I didn't have you just don't like, especially when
Yes.
you see people in your family who come out and you see how they're treated. You see how people, your friends in their communities and their families, like I've had friends that get put out their houses. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So it's just like those things makes it very much harder when you start to become an adult to
Agree.
come into these ideas and really settle into your body about what resonates for you. So it
Right.
is a later in my life for me to discover this, but that's the why I came to it when I came to. Like, I've arrived to this when I was able to, and I think that's okay. It's still people in their 40s figuring it out about what their
Hmm.
sexuality is and what it looks like, and that's okay, and it's
And like I
valid
said, it's
considering.
no time. It's no time frame
Yeah,
on
it's no time
when.
frame. It's no time
Love
frame.
it.
But that's
And
my advice. Try some.
on your
Go
journey.
ahead.
Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I want you to finish.
On your journey, I think
Yeah.
it had to take you there in order for you to create this platform.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that because I don't think that I would have had the knowledge, one, but I wouldn't have had the spirit because I was being authentic to myself during that
Mhm.
time. And I'm really a big believer that when you're being authentic to yourself and you're being truthful with who you are internally, then spirit blesses you with ideas. And I think the ancestors knew I would not be able to carry this business in this way unless I was like really real with myself and honest with who I
Mhm.
was, especially because I got a whole sex ed business. Like, you need to be clear about your sexuality and be very understanding about who you are, what you like, what you don't like, what resonates for you. So I think that me being authentic and admitting that to myself and coming into that discovery that, this is what my sexuality is now, and it looks very different than what it did just 3 years ago, which is not far. That's not hasn't been far apart from now. It's not, it hasn't been a long time. Uh,
Yes.
it's just that stepping into that authenticity allowed me to create this, and it's gonna allow me to sustain it. So yeah, my
Love it.
advice is try some shit out, listen to your body. That's how you're gonna know. Like, and if you're not in a space to try some shit out, because again, we all don't have access to do that. Just listening to your body, seeing how you react when you're around certain people, seeing how you react when you watch certain porn. That also was a way that I knew when I started to like fall out of of like and out of desire with certain types of porn, and other types of porn I was like, oh, this is exciting. So maybe that could be a way, but really
Okay.
just sitting with yourself, asking yourself questions. Like I wrote questions down to myself, and like, or looked at interviews of other queer folks and listened to what they were saying about how they knew, and then kind of asking myself like, dang, I wonder, did I do that? Did I, so that's also a way. It's just mostly just listening to your body and your heart and mind. That's going to be the way. But those are some tangible steps I feel like you can get to, that might can indicate if you should.
Right. Love it. So
Yeah.
how can we as a community of people, because it seems like you've met quite a few people along your journey, that you've
Yes.
created your circle of people. Me personally, I think if we, keep finding those tribes, we can kind of
Mm-hmm.
shift the culture with it. But how can we
Absolutely.
create a safer space until that happens for the LGBTQI family?
We can do that by embracing them, inviting them places that you have, you know, paying them for their labor, for their intellectual labor, paying them for their time. Especially if you have queer folks in your life that you want to know information from, send them a little cash app for them to give you answers about things. It won't
Y'all,
hurt.
y'all heard
Maybe
that?
like $20 for like this. It's because it can be taxing to not only give the information, but also having to relive it too. Because we're
Mm,
in this experience, we're in a community, and it sometimes takes a lot for me to sit with those kinds of questions in myself. But then when somebody else asks, that like it takes a lot of mental wherewithal to do that. So that's a way that you can like hold space for us and let us know that we're appreciated, and make us feel comfortable and good about ourselves. Yeah, like supporting us financially is, yeah, do it. Run it up. Open your purse. Open your purse.
cash
So that's
out
a
so
way.
they know it's real.
Cash at me so I know it's real. Exactly. Zelle, sure. If you ain't got, I got PayPal. I take Cash App, PayPal, Bitcoin. Well, I don't take Bitcoin. Somebody does. So anyway. So yeah, I would say embracing them, inviting us to the events that you have, and actually showing us that the like if you do host an event somewhere, having people that look like us there, inviting us and showing us that you are putting in the work to create representation in a really authentic way. Doing your own research. That's the biggest thing. It's like when we see you doing the work, that's the big, for me as a queer Black person, that's going to be the way that I see that you are holding space when I see you doing the work. When I see you doing the research on your own, finding the answers to the questions, becoming knowledgeable about pronouns, becoming knowledgeable about sex versus gender, because they're not the same thing. Sex, sexuality, and gender are all three different things. So learning that, being dedicated to like remembering people's pronouns and trying your best to get it right, and then being receptive to when people correct you. Hello. That's a great way to create a safe and brave space for us, for a lot of us. Yeah, doing that is a beautiful thing. Like that is the way that I think that we're going to get to a society that is more accepting and more loving, right, of
Mm-hmm.
LGBTQI plus. It's just going to be a thing of like trial and error, and really being dedicated. Like, are you really dedicated to supporting LGBTQI plus folks? Are you really dedicated
Yes.
to understanding the language? Like doing that's the best thing that I want you can do for me, especially because I don't have to be bogged down with teaching and having to, be so like patient with you to hold your. I'm not gonna do that. I'm graceful. I give grace, and I know that this is something that's new to a lot of us. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's just something that we do get to do. We get to unlearn, we get to relearn, we get to address our own traumas that have caused us to have certain biases about LGBTQI plus folks. We get to address traumas that has created certain ways in which we show up around LGBTQ plus folks. We get to we get to maneuver that on our own course, and
Right.
even folks in the community are still unlearning and relearning. Right, we're not absolved necessarily. There's harm that can be created by anyone when you are not taught that gender and sexuality can look so many different ways. So
Yes.
it's not that it's bad if you make a mistake. It's just bad if you don't correct it and you don't, do the necessary things to repair. So
Right.
that is what I would like to see. I think that that's a great way that we could create braver spaces, safer spaces for us, until the world becomes better. However, that is a part of making the world better. Like if we're doing our own separate
Yes,
parts, that is making the world better and
I
safer
agree.
and more aligned for us.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Uh, Shifting over a little bit to the culture and idea of body count. You know, that's a huge thing in our
Yes.
culture.
It's
Do
always a
you
huge one. It is,
do you
child.
think anybody should be ashamed of their body count? Do you see any double standards? I know I do.
Oh, I see. I do see a lot of double standards. I do see, particularly cishet men, will have several bodies and think that that is perfectly okay, but will shame women, particularly black. They will shame black women for having the same, having multiple partners.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a thing that people of all races and backgrounds do. Like men typically do get more passes and leniency when it comes to body count. However, it doesn't fucking matter. I don't think that it's something to be ashamed of, whether you got one partner or 100 partners. Truly, because again, that weighs no bearing on your the type of person that you are. Now, I will say,
Right.
just realistically speaking, the more partners you have, the more at risk you are going to be. That is just real.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm
Yes.
not saying go out
That's
there and
on
get you
both
100
sides.
partners. It's on both
That's
sides,
on both
right? And
sides.
that's with any sexuality and any gender too. Let's make that very clear, because that's a big
Mm-hmm.
misconception that gay men are at higher rates for
Mm-hmm.
HIV contraction because they're gay, and that is not the reason.
Right.
Or
Of
that queer people in
course.
general are in risk of more contracting STIs and STDs because they're more, and the reason why they have more partners and more promiscuous is because we're queer. That's also not true, right? So I want that to be clear that there's a stigma around body count, and a lot of it is to do with is very gender, and it shouldn't be, but it is that way. Your body count is your choice. Whatever you feel resonant
Yes.
to, whoever you feel resonant to get engaged with, you can do that. I do think I want to encourage and offer to people to be responsible about that and to be discerning about the people that they're engaging with. Because
Yes.
I think if a lot of us were more discerning, we would not have, many sexual partners. But many is also subjective.
Yes.
So let's say many for you is 20, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have over a dozen sexual partners, right? Bodies, if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
Will say and admit that if I was more discerning and thought about the people that I wanted to engage with, I would not have as many. I would say that. And not to say that the amount is the problem. I think that I want people to have nourishing and healing sexual experiences. And I just think
Yes.
that many of us have multiple partners due to a lot of factors, but a big chunk of it is that we probably don't know ourselves as much as we think we do. We don't know the person as much
You're
as we
on a
think we do.
search for something and don't know
Or you want
exactly
to
what
search
that
and
is.
don't know exactly what it is. So that is going to be my offering of caution, is that if you are a person that has multiple sexual partners and you do like to have sex with multiple different types of people, that is perfectly fine. Just be thinking about that before you engage. Like, think about the people that you want to think about, how you want to feel after sex. Think about how you want to move in the world. Think about the things that you like, the creative energy that you want to have after sex. Think
Mm-hmm.
about think about if you really like this person, like, because I do think
Yes.
that sex is a spiritual exchange as well, and you don't want that type of negative energy, piled up in you. So I would say
Yes.
just be
I'm gonna
discerning
take it back to my
about the
brand
people.
management mind. Create you a
Yeah.
create you a target avatar.
Yes, a target avatar. That was perfectly put. So yeah, the body count for me is not a thing. It's not a thing to be ashamed of. I just want to caution people to be discerning about the type of sex that they're having, the people that they're having sex, because I want people to have nourishing and healing experiences, right? And you're not going to get that with everybody. You know,
That
you're
is
just
true.
not going to get that with everybody. So just be discerning, be safe, be a slut, do whatever you want. Just be safe. Think about it. Get to know, really sit with yourself and get to know people, know their sexual
Mm-hmm.
practices, because liking somebody and loving them is that's only one thing. And you ain't even got to do that to have
Mm-hmm.
sex with people. You ain't gotta like. You don't have to. Well, I don't think you have to love someone or be in a relationship to have sex. You don't. But I do think you need to at least like the person and definitely know their sexual practices. Because a lot of us get into sex because we love the person and they make us feel good and they're so sweet, and they ain't never asked for a damn STD test. That's just not gonna be enough.
Yeah,
it's not gonna cut it, right? So that's my thing. I'm way more concerned about how the sex happens than how frequently it happens or the amount of people it happens with. Way more concerned about the how it's going and how you're going to feel physically, spiritually, and mentally versus the amount. Yeah.
Yes. Target avatar. That's what we're gonna say. Find your target avatar. So that we can have these healthy and healing experiences. I love it. I love it.
All right. Also, shout out to the beautiful human that posted that comment. I love them very much. So, hey, baby.
Ooh. Now on to my good shirt here. So tell me
for me.
Yes. And we see that, you know, our culture, it can be a little hypersexual, a little aggressive sometimes when people trying to come on to you. So it can be a little cringy, borderline rapey.
Yes.
Turn into aggravated assault. So go ahead and give us your definition of consent so that we can have an understanding.
Yes. Well, simply put, consent is a full, bold, enthusiastic yes. That is it. Anything other than that, it ain't consent. Oh. That is very simple. Bold, enthusiastic yes is consent, right? Now, that's just generally. Okay, so I'm going to also break that down because consent also can be curated by the person as well. I do agree with that. On the surface, full enthusiastic consent, period, right? I do think that in certain couples, amongst certain friend groups, and with the individual, it can also look a lot of other ways visually with the body, with certain safe words can also, but that can be curated with the individual. And that also has to only be curated with people that you know. You cannot get consent in any other way with people that you don't know. So I will preface that to say, for people, for strangers, for people that you don't know like that, consent is an enthusiastic yes. And however, when you are engaged with people that you know, whether sexually or platonically, because consent is not just for sex, it is for picking something up that doesn't belong to you. It's for hugging people. It's for holding hands. It's for touching
my hair.
You know, and we. Oh, hello. That might get you cussed out. It might. It really might get you, especially if I got my hair.
Get you
don't touch the crown.
It might get you mink. Like before I even know it. I mean, I don't know.
You know, I'm just gonna see black. I'm just gonna see red, right? So yeah, don't touch the crown without permission. Don't do that. So yeah, so I will say that for people that you don't know, strangers, consent is an enthusiastic yes. That just might look different when you're amongst couples, you know, friends, but that has to be with people that you know. I do still think that enthusiastic yes does need to be included for consent amongst any group. I just know and from experience that it can also look different when you know someone. So if you're in a relationship with someone or someone's, you know, because we pro polyamory over here too, whoop, whoop. You all might define consent as a safe word. That's something other than yes. Maybe consent for you might be yellow or gold. I'm telling my business, that's my safe word is yellow. And a safe word is very different than consent, but you get what I'm saying? Like it could be something else. It might not be yes. It might be something else.
It calls for a conversation beforehand.
It does have cause for a conversation.
So that person knows.
Right. But before you get to that, it has to be like the enthusiastic yes, and then y'all can have a conversation about what other ways consent can look like. So consent could be like if it's time for sex, it's sexy time, I'm ready to get it popping, I'm feeling horny, I'm feeling aroused. I don't know, my partner might be on that, you know. So instead of just going and straight and kissing on them, maybe we decided that when we ready, when either one is feeling that, consent for us looks like a knee rub. Like that's how you know I'm ready. And if you rub my knee back, then I know that you also ready. And then we can start with all the other foreplay, sticking and licking and sucking and all of that. So that might be what consent is amongst a couple. It could be that,
Right.
but that's something that has to be discussed. You can't just go into
Exactly.
doing it. You can't just lean in and start kissing people and then hope they go with it. Like, because some people may
Right.
go with it and may be uncomfortable. Reading body language also tells you whether a
Mm-hmm.
person is consenting, because also people can say yes with their mouth and not say yes with their body. So that's important
Mm.
too, to be looking at body language, especially if you don't know the person, right? But even if you do
Yes.
know the person, still be just paying attention, after they've given that consent. I always say do 3 checkpoints when it comes to consent. I
Okay.
have a 3 checkpoint rule. So I ask first in whatever ways that I ask, whether it's a person that I know or I don't know. And then we engage. And then I ask again or I gauge the consent some other kind of way. I may pause and kind of look and see what the person is saying, see how their body is looking. I do a body
Mm-hmm.
scan, I do an eye gaze, and and then I continue to engage. And my third point of checking is like before the actual act, because foreplay is one thing and consent is
Mm-hmm.
ongoing. That's why I also do 3-point check. So I ask a third time before I get to actual sex, whether that might be penetration, fingers, tongue, toys, whatever the case may be. You do a third time before whatever act that you're gonna do, you know. So yeah, I like to do that, a 3 checkpoint to gauge. Or maybe it might look like stopping and saying, "Are you okay?" Or you like that. That's also a way to like check in too for consent and seeing how the person responds with their mouth and with their body. So that is mine. Because also consent can be retracted at any time as well. So it's ongoing,
Y'all hear that?
getting consent. Turn it up for the people in the back. It can be retracted at any time. So somebody can say yes to you at first. Y'all engaging, y'all engaging, y'all engaging. You check in. They can still be good. They still might can be consent. And then instantly they could be like, no, I changed my mind. Or their body language might change. Or they might tense up.
Mm-hmm.
At that point,
You
you
don't
need to
know what
stop
someone's
all
trigger
action.
is.
Exactly. It's another thing. Even people that have known each other may not know what each other's triggers are. So this is important to pay attention. And at that point, when you see something that has changed drastically, you should stop. You should stop all contact, have a conversation, check in, and then continue to engage if that person gives you their consent back. So yeah.
Yes. All right. Taking it back to y'all a little bit. What do you find is the biggest reasons parents struggle with giving their teens that talk?
The talk.
Mm-hmm.
For fear of finding out what their children are doing. That's been my top reason that I've gotten from parents in my experience, that they're afraid to have the call because they're afraid to know what their children
Oh.
are engaging in. They're really afraid to confirm what they already been thinking the whole time. Like a lot of parents know when their children are having sex, or they know when their children are engaging in some type of way. And a lot of parents even know when their children are gay, queer in some form of fashion, when they previously thought that they weren't. When they're about to come out, a lot of parents already know or have an inkling, idea. So the talk is really the fear of like being confirming what they already know. What I've also learned is that their fear is that they're not going to get it right, that they're going to say something too, and that hasn't been a common fear, which I feel like that's a great fear to have, because that means that you care about
Mm-hmm.
how you're engaging with your child. That
Right.
you really care about how you're going to come off. You really care about building trust and rapport with them, and you don't want to mess
Yes.
that up. So that's also another fear. It's the fear of like just not saying the right thing or not being knowledgeable enough. So
Yeah, I think that's what I saw a TikTok where a lady, she was like, well, the traditional birds and the bees. So she was like, now I have to talk about, the bees that used to be birds and the birds that used to be bees, or the bees that like
yeah,
bees. And,
yeah,
if they don't already have a clear understanding of, every aspect of the
yeah,
spectrum, it's going to be kind
yeah.
of hard to relate that to the children at the
Exactly.
same time.
Yeah. That's on.
So,
Yeah, that is that. I have parents that like, well, I just don't know, and that's where I come in. So y'all can book me. I got you to guide you, to give you some language, to give you some insight before you have the conversation with your team. So yeah, those are the two
yes.
biggest things that I get as far as fears, and and also just the fear of them not telling them, like not giving them information. Like they fear that they're going to have a talk, have the talk, and then the child is just going to shut down and not want to respond and not engage with
Mm,
them. So that's
yeah.
also a fear that parents have.
I guess kind of filling out was awkward for them as well.
Yeah,
But
it's really them. They be nervous. They just be very, very nervous. And it's just like, oh, my baby, I just can't take this. Like, I just can't. So, yeah, I understand. But it's necessary, and you can do it, parents. Y'all got this. Hit me up. I'm helping you.
yes, yes, get with her. I think me and you also talked about, there are definitely some things that aren't prioritized when it comes to sexual health. So if we could get out of our own way and kind of get out of this taboo mindset and
Mm-hmm.
prioritize sexual health, what would that look like? What would the world look like for you? And I think you
Ooh.
had mentioned if it was more equitable as well. So
Yeah.
from your eyes,
Yeah.
what would the perfect scenario look like for you?
Yeah, ideally, for sexual health, if we were to get out our own way, if we were to disrupt and dismantle homophobia and colorism and fat phobia and capitalism, all these structures that do bind us and create barriers for our sexual health, that world for me would look like free healthcare, where everyone gets to access that. Because sexual health is healthcare. Like you need that. And that's everything from the traditional abortion rights that we all have been hearing about. That would
Mm-hmm.
be accessible and equitable. It will be free. That would mean free contraceptives, condoms, pads, like hygiene products, menstrual products. All of these things will be free of charge and accessible. It would literally be in a fucking vending machine like candy and soda. Pads and condoms, which I feel like I've seen that maybe once in my life, and I know they exist. I've seen them, but they're not in abundance, right? They just
Mm-hmm.
would be around. They would be in every gas station bathroom, and the good kind of pads, not the toxic shit. I want some Nature Care and some Honey Pot pads and
Yes.
tampons in bathrooms. I want the I want condoms in regular bathrooms and gas stations. I want affordable, accessible abortions. Um, Pap smears would be accessible free of charge. Testing would be accessible in abundance and free of charge, which a lot of testing is free of charge. Find your local testing clinic. However,
Mm-hmm.
there are some that a lot of the free clinics in communities are usually very booked and understaffed and underfunded. So
Mm-hmm.
when there is free testing going on, it's usually at a small clinic that's very understaffed and very underfunded. So that also would look different. It would be these clinics having an excess amount of money to be able to provide resources to their communities and free testing at all times, right? Yeah, it would look like trans youth being able to have gender affirming medication. It would be looking like trans adults having gender affirming surgeries that they need without it costing you gotta give up a body to get a body. Like it should not be cost for people to just live, in an affirmed and healthy way. It shouldn't cost for me to exist as a human being, right?
Exactly.
So that is what the world would look like, sexual health wise, if we were to get out of our own fucking way, right? Because y'all shouldn't be charging people
Yeah.
for stuff on stolen land at that. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Yes. I ain't want to say nothing,
Yeah,
but yeah.
stolen land. So yeah,
I
just
love it. I love it.
yeah,
And I'm all about the forward thinking and getting on the path of how we can get there.
yeah,
And I appreciate
absolutely,
companies like Y'all Say for,
yes,
creating that stepping stone and the foundation for it, because I feel like our children are going to be the ones who are going
mm,
to, take it up to the second step and the third step.
yeah,
You have to
yeah,
feel
absolutely,
confident now to even be able to make some of these changes. So you're doing
right.
great work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, love. I do. Yeah, y'all hit me up. Y'all can find me on Instagram, Facebook at We Are Yase. That's WeAreYase. My website is weareyase.com. So you can go on there. That's where you can purchase the shirts too. I do still have shirts. I also have another one that says Sexfirmations and reparations, which we're gonna do a Sexfirmation before we get out of here. So yeah,
Yes,
y'all hit me up.
yes, yes, yes. That's the next step. Let's get into some of these demonstrations and sex formations.
Yes. Yeah, let's do it. Oh
So
yeah,
what we
I
got
am on
first?
TikTok too. But I'm gonna be more active on TikTok for y'all because I'm not active on TikTok right
No
now.
worries. And you were talking about earlier how marketing is your the weaker standpoint.
Yeah.
Get with me so that we can work this out as a brand
Yes.
manager,
I
social media
got you.
manager.
I got you. Yes. I appreciate you.
Not a
Okay,
problem.
so I do want to just share. I've talked a lot about what I do, but I actually want to do what I do now. I want to show y'all what I do. So one of the first things that I do in workshops, I like to do condom demonstrations, right? And I do various types of condom demonstrations. So I do condom demonstrations to demonstrate how to put on a penis condom. So, which is the traditional way that most people know how to put on a condom, right? I also do condom demonstrations with internal condoms. I did not bring any of my internal condoms today, but I'm gonna still show
Okay.
y'all.
Okay.
So an internal condom is a condom that is used in the vagina and also can be used in the anus as well. So that's another. I also do a condom demonstration, which is the one I'm gonna do for y'all today, is to how to make dental dam out of your traditional penis condom, right? And dental dam is also something that was also what the world would look like. Dental dam being sold in a regular store, just like a condom is,
Yes.
because it's not so. It's usually something only like sex educators can have access to. I mean, I think regular people, like anybody, can just go on Amazon probably and find dental dam. But it's like it's not in a store that you can just go and buy, and it should be.
Right.
So dental dam is a piece of square plastic that is used as a barrier between the mouth and the anus, the mouth and the vagina, basically the mouth and genitals, right? To prevent STIs, STDs, if you are performing oral sex on the vagina or the anus, right? So we're going to demonstrate today because there's a lot of my queer folks out there. We are having sex in a variety of ways, and it doesn't always look very different from heterosexual folks, but it does look different sometimes, right? And dental dam is usually something that I have experienced only queer folks talking about and using, right? Not to say the heterosexual
Okay.
people do not use dental dam, because actually most people don't use it at all in general, and we should use it more. But when I have heard of people actually using it, it usually is queer folks, people with vaginas that have sex with people with vaginas. So I want to demonstrate that today just because it's something that is not talked about nearly enough, and I think that it's important.
Okay. We're here to
I've
learn.
even only I've even only used dental dam once in my life as sex educator, so that should just tell you how much it's just uncommon, right? Um, because let's keep it real. Most people ain't eating coochie with no dental dam. It's not as fun. I tell you that. But if you ain't gotten tested yet, I would suggest using it. But that's why testing is for. You get tested, you good. You can play without the barriers, but it is very helpful if you don't have access to testing and you still want to engage with oral sex. It's very helpful. I know a lot of sex workers that use it sometimes as
Okay.
well. Definitely pro sex work. So yeah, so this is your traditional penis condom. I took it out of the pack. Skin is a brand that I do like to use when I do use condoms. I know you might say, well, you just said that you like to engage with people with vaginas. What would you need a penis condom for? Hey, if you know, you know, and if you don't, you don't. That's all I'm gonna say about that on that. Again, queer people still use a lot of the same tools that straight folks do. But
Exactly.
anywho, so to make the dental dam, you're gonna take your penis condom out, right? Looks like this. And you're going to grab you some scissors or a knife. I would recommend scissors. But if you ain't got that, use a knife. Hell, if you ain't got that, use your teeth. Hey, you gotta do it. You gotta get it how you live. So you're going to. I have like lash scissors because this is what I had. I would recommend regular cutting scissors, but hey, it's gonna
Okay.
get the job done. So you're gonna cut the tip of it. Maybe cut like about an inch down from the tip, maybe 2 inches, just because you want to get a flat surface. Because this is gonna look like a square. You're gonna cut the tip off like this, and I've done this in youth at a youth conference before, so young people have seen this.
And what were
For
their
those
responses to it?
child, they was like, "Who is this wild lady doing this?" And I've only ever done it on camera. I don't. Have I? I don't think I've done this demonstration in person with my young people, but
I
I
think you
have done it with a
should.
group on. I definitely will. My next one's coming up. I'm gonna be like, yeah. But I've done other condom demonstrations with them, and they just wild out, child. They just be. I'm like, y'all, calm down, calm down. And then once they get over the initial shock, they be like fascinated and asking questions and stuff. So then you're gonna cut the bottom of it, as I'm doing now. So you're gonna cut the bottom with the base of the condom. You're gonna cut that. Try to cut it as straight across as you can. And I'm only struggling because again, I got the wrong scissors, but we're gonna make it work. Okay. So there's that. And then so it's gonna look like this, right? So then you're gonna
Okay.
take the scissors, get in the condom because now you got two open sides.
So at
So
this
you're
point, you
gonna it's
basically
gonna
have a
look,
cylinder.
yeah, you got a cylinder. So you're gonna take it and then you're gonna cut. I'm gonna cut this side. You're gonna cut down the side, or you can go down the middle, either or. I'm gonna cut down the side though. So I got it like this. I'm gonna cut, cut all the way down. And you see it's kind of ripping on its own, so it's kind of helping you get there.
You do.
Cut, cut, and just keep cutting. Make sure not to like poke a hole where it don't belong. Just cut straight down, straight down, straight down, straight down. Okay, so it take a little bit of time, y'all, to really again because these are the wrong scissors. But all right, so after you've cut down, you're gonna have a little square. It looks like this. It's gonna look like a little blanket. You know, you got your little blanket or
Yeah.
whatever. It's gonna look like this.
Okay.
Do like the influencers, the food influencers. I'm gonna put my
Right. Make sure the light ain't hitting it in the wrong light.
So now we have our, and so now you got your dental dam. So again, this is to be placed over the genitals. So this is the genitals, like say my fingers, the genitals, and this is my mouth. It's gonna go over the area, flat over the area. Make sure it's secure. Whether that is again the genitals in the front, the vagina, or the anus. It also can be used as a finger condom too if you want to drape it. But I think a regular condom would be better. Finger condoms are a thing too. We don't have those in access. I would also like finger
Mm,
condoms to be accessible and free of charge as well. But if you did want to use as a finger condom, you could do that. You can use a regular penis condom. You could use the tip of the condom that you cut off. Um,
okay.
Too, if you would like. I wouldn't suggest that just because it's so short, it might
Yeah.
come off, but it is an option if that's all you have to protect the fingers if you are doing finger play, whether that's in the vagina, in the anus. You get the point, right? In the mouth, whatever, because STDs
Yes.
can carry in the mouth and not be present on the genitals, or be present on the genitals and not be present in the mouth. So just make sure you all are aware of that. I'm gonna tell y'all a funny story though about STDs, and since we're talking about pink parts like your mouth, the vagina, the anus, because there's 4 pink parts. There's your mouth, well, 5. Your mouth, your eye, 6. Mouth, eyes, nose, ears, vagina, and anus. Right, those are your pink parts. And anywhere
Okay.
that there's pink showing, right, that is the opening to your pores and your immune system, your bloodstream. There can be STDs present because that pink, that flesh is the opening into your body, into your bloodstream. I had this was not my client, but it was a client of a colleague of mine. A colleague of mine had a case where a teen came in, a teen girl, and she had gonorrhea in her ear. She had gonorrhea in her ear because she allowed someone to ejaculate in her ear or
Hmm.
put their penis in her ear, and this person had gonorrhea on their penis. So it can happen anywhere. that there's an opening present. Herpes is also a skin to skin STD, so it can be present anywhere. It can be on the nose, it can be on the hands, it can be on the cheek, on the jawline, on your neck, because skin to skin. So be careful with your pink parts. Okay, saying that to say.
Y'all heard it here.
And I'm laughing because not because it's funny to Tracy. I'm laughing because it's just the way that I'm saying it, right? I want to be clear about it. But yeah, you got
Yeah.
your dental dam, and there you go. Any questions?
Yes. Love, love, love it. That was very
Mm,
informal,
mm.
informational. Let's get into our sex formation, Miss Goddess.
Yes. Okay. So we got that, and we're gonna end with sex formations. So sex formations. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I do a weekly sex formation of the week. It's usually on Mondays. I have not been posting because I've been on a hiatus, but I will be back. So you will be seeing sex formations again. Y'all stay tuned. So sex formation is a term that I coined and created. Now I'm gonna let y'all know. I'm gonna just be so honest. I never heard nobody say sex formation before I said it, but that don't mean nobody ain't said it before me. So if you know somebody that already got that, is trademarked or something, I'm just throwing this out there for legal purposes. Please let me know because I ain't know nobody saying sex formation before I said sex formation. So I'm gonna say that I came up with this. I'm not gonna say I created it or coined it yet, but I created this randomly one day. I don't even know what year it was. It might have been 2020, because I was talking a lot about affirming the body,
Mhm.
affirming yourself as a person, affirming what you're good at, your goals, your dreams, affirming the type of love that you want to embrace and welcome into your life, right? Because all of that also is a part of sexual health. And so affirming the ways that sex gets to exist and defying the ways in which the world has told us, particularly as Black folks, the ways that we get to have sex, right? Like we have a
Mhm.
lot of myths and a lot of limitations about what type of bodies are desirable for sex, what type of skin tones is desirable for sex. Like if you are a bigger body person, you're dark skinned, if you have a disability, a physical disability, maybe you're in a wheelchair, maybe you have crushes. We've been told that these certain types of bodies don't deserve pleasure, and that sex is
Mhm.
not a thing, and this is not true, right? And it's also anti-Black to say that, to have concepts like that. But these are things that we've been conditioned by and internalized. So I'm like, well, I want to affirm sex in all the multitudes of ways. Sex formation, affirmation.
Love.
So that's how sex formation. So a sex formation is essentially a word or phrase that affirms and uplifts sex in a expansive and just uplifting way, right? It is a decolonized statement to remind us that we do not have to be limited by Western standards of beauty and desirability.
Yes.
So that could look like anyway. Sex formations affirm certain things, but they also debunk and resist. Sex formations are an act of resistance too. So it resists certain ideas and
Mm.
ideologies about sex and sexuality.
Okay.
So, for example, a sex formation could be any gender can have an abortion. That's a sex formation. To
Okay.
affirm to ourselves that not just women have abortions. Not just women have. The only thing that is required for an abortion is a uterus and there being a baby in there or a
Right.
zygote in there, right?
Right.
That is the only requirement. Is that you have a uterus and you got pregnant, you can have an abortion. You don't necessarily have to be a woman to have
Yes.
a uterus or to get pregnant, right? So that is an example. A sex formation could be I am a healer and I deserve radical pleasure, right? That could be a sex formation. So anything that is
Yes.
affirming sex and sexuality, things about the body, things about access to sexual health. It could be really anything that is related to sex in all the ways that it comes about. It could be something referring to consent, like anything that you want to use to affirm yourself or to affirm to other people about sex or to resist something that doesn't align with you, to resist some conditioning that we've been tried to be limited by. That could be a sex formation. So
Okay.
we're gonna write some sex formations today.
And this will be my
Yeah.
first session. Got my handy dandy pink. Pink.
Hey.
Look, it's pink. It's pink.
Right. And I have a template rather
Okay.
that you can use. This is what I use in my workshops to get people started. on how to make Sexfirmations. You don't have to continue to use this template, but it's something to just to get your juices flowing if you're not used to Sexfirmations or you've never seen me do this before. I don't know if you can see this, but this is kind of like the template I like to use. I am blank and my power is blank. So the I am is going to be like a noun or adjective. I'm going to put that, and then verb. So yeah, so you're going to put I am blank, use a noun or adjective, and my power is blank, and choose a verb, right? So this is the template that we're going to use today. But again, you don't always have to use this, but this is just something to get us flowing. So I am blank, noun or adjective, and my power is blank, and it's a verb. So if y'all want to, so my Sexfirmation that I use all the time is I am a lover and my power is healing. So that's my Sexfirmation. I have many others, but that's just one of them. So that's mine. I am a lover and my power is healing. So yeah. And y'all can drop y'all's in the chat if y'all are watching and listening and creating yours. Would love to see your Sexfirmations. This is an exercise for all of us to do collectively.
I get this one all the time. So I am a comforter and my power is listening.
Yes. Woo! I love it. I'm a comforter. My power is listening, baby, because that's a power, honey. Let me tell you. It's a power and a skill that not many of us have as much as we should. So that's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Anybody in the chat? I want to see somebody out. I know y'all watching and listening. So
I know it too.
God. I want to see what
y'all.
Come on,
drop us some Sexfirmations.
Yeah,
get it in the replay also. I'll probably come back and get some screenshots of those in the replay. But if you got them, let us know.
Yeah, and you all can use this. Use this in your workshops. Definitely credit me now. But you can use this in your workshops or your conferences. If and it can be with young people. It can be I've done this with adults. I've done this with young people. I've even done this with elementary age students too. So, and they have different things. Yes. Of course, theirs is more so geared towards their talents. It's usually not geared towards sex with them. But let me tell you, elementary school students are sexually active and they are sexual beings. So I have had some that will make references to sex as well, which they are engaged and they need to have the information as well. So I have a way that I do sex ed with that age range that's age appropriate.
So what all age ranges do you work with?
Yeah, I mostly do 12 to 19, but I'm open to doing 8 up until 12. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I love
and
it.
I want to get more into
this.
Yeah, I want to get more into the younger age ranges this year. I haven't done as much work with the younger ages, but I want to, and I'm equipped to do so.
I will say this generation is definitely I feel like some of them been here before.
Yeah. Yeah. And they will let you know that they have been here before.
Ooh, all right. Well, that is our time. Everybody drop your Sexfirmations in the comments. I'll be checking for the replays and likes and comments throughout. Tam, you are truly amazing, girl, and I appreciate you for stopping by.
Thank you.
The fight you are fighting is definitely purposeful. We need more educated parents. We need more educated teens when it comes to this topic, and especially when I want them to not be ashamed to ask questions. We all stumble. We all make different choices, whether it's necessary or unnecessary, and go down particular paths. But we want to avoid them going too far down the rabbit hole. So organizations like yours is definitely needed.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I'm glad I got to come and talk to y'all. And I definitely look forward to coming back for sure.
Yes. Me too. If you ever have a topic that you want to talk about, don't be afraid to hit me up and let me know. Like, girl, it's go time.
Right.
So season 3, we coming back strong and hard. Guys, remember, I love you. Until next time, we want to keep it bossy, keep it
Yes.
saucy, and don't forget to tell your girl how you bossing.
Yes. All right, y'all. Later.